The Makers International podcast is brought to you by Yorkshire Grit, the Woodturner's Abrasive Paste, Highland Boxes for all of your resin and hybrid pen blanks and knife scales, Mancrafting for amazing customizable powder-coated Yeti mugs, and by Harneal Media for their website development and hosting services. For more information, go to www.makersinternationalpodcast.com and click on sponsors.
Well, that was something different, wasn't it? Good evening, everybody. Or good morning or good afternoon, wherever it is you may be listening. With me tonight, as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
How are you doing?
Mr. Dale Kirkwood.
Hello.
With me for the first time in a while, Mr. Jake Thompson.
Hello, Anya.
Keeping you alive.
And a couple of people that are experienced with life. First of all, we have Mr. Mark Lindsay.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And we have the ever lovely Mrs. Ruby Cler.
Glad to be with you, good-looking gentlemen.
And me.
I love her. I love her already.
There we go. So yeah, we've obviously got a few people over in the chat. We are supposed to be having Wayne the Woodturner joining us, but unfortunately he's having a few internet issues at the moment. So you're joking, man. So he will pop on as and when he can, if he can, that is obviously. But in the meantime, we're going to hand it over to Chris and see if there's been any random listener questions. And no doubt Mr. Pugh has been asking a few.
Well, we don't have random
that
questions.
Rhymed, that did. That rhymed.
Poet and doesn't know.
Poet and doesn't know. That rhymed as well, Chris.
We don't have any random listener questions. They all pertained to the topic that we have at hand tonight. And so maybe we should explain what the topic is that we're talking about. And with us, and God love them both, is Mark Lindsay and Ruby Cler, both of whom are retired from whatever they used to do before, their 9 to 5, whatever the case may be. In my case, it was a 7 to 7. I'm sure in their cases it would be different as well. But in other words, we're done working for, quote unquote, the man, and are now doing what we want when we want. And so it's a part about maker maturity. It's like when you're given all the freedom and you've reached the point in time. And I'll be honest with you, age has nothing to do with it, because I retired when I was 42 years old. So it doesn't, age is not a requirement here. It's a matter of when you're no longer dependent on the income of someone else to employ you, that you now have opportunities to do what you wish to do when you wish to do it. This is what the show is about. And there's a lot of makers in this community that are in that position. So we thought it would be great to have a little topic about that and talk to Mark and both Ruby about this evening. The first question that Andy has regarding that, though, was, and I guess I'm going to let you guys answer first, and then I guess I'll chime in afterwards. Let's begin with the lady, because ladies first. Ruby, I'm sorry. You're going to have to unmute yourself in order to answer this. Did the making start for you after or before you decided to learn?
Oh, it started years and years before. In fact, the making was what got me into turning. I started out as a painter, both with oils and acrylics, and I got...
You muted yourself again.
You muted yourself, Ruby.
There you go.
So I started out as a painter, and once all the walls in my house, my brother's and mom and dad's place were all covered with paintings, I started looking for something else to paint on. And I got started wood turning and started painting on the inside of bowls and things like that. And then the turning became addictive.
Mark, what about you?
I started long before, and in fact, it kind of guided me in the directions I went. I started out, my entire family is either carpenters, contractors, they're in construction in one form or another. And so my life has been revolved around building or making things. I mean, first project my grandfather and I ever worked on together, I still have it. We built a chair when I was 7 years old. So
No kidding.
I've been doing it for over 50 years. Yeah.
Well, obviously, you guys both started your endeavor before you sat down. So his follow-up question to you would be, has your approach to doing what you do changed after or because of the fact that you no longer work for 9 to 5? Ruby.
For me, it's changed a lot because for a while after I retired, it became a job. I started working for a local wood mill, and I would put in 12-hour days, sometimes longer there. In the course of that, I also learned how to use a table saw, a joiner, a planer, and all the other equipment. But I did all their turning for them that came into the shop. And then I started getting a lot of jobs at home. And even to this day, I mean, I could almost class it as work because like just the other day, I had a dozen spindles to do for finials for fence posts that I had to do that were 6 by 6, maybe 9 inches long.
But I guess the difference is you're doing it on your terms now and not somebody else's.
And I'm getting paid for it quite well.
Well, there you go. Mark, what about you? Has it changed for you at all since you retired?
Yes, it's only intensified. I now wonder how I managed to get so much done while still having a job.
Yeah.
While totally forgetting that I've multiplied the number of things to do by about 100. So there just aren't enough hours in the day. And now I just joke that I need to go out and find a job so I can get some rest.
See, I think I'm the reverse of both of you. I am the absolute 180-degree reverse of both of you. I accomplished more when I was working in my workshop than I do now. I just kind of do what I want to do now. And I take my time at doing it. I'm not in a rush. I don't sell what I make. I never have. I made a little money doing what I do because I've helped friends out who have, generously given me cash when I didn't ask for it. But outside of that, I mean, I really don't. I don't push myself anymore. I'm not pushing to get things out the door. You follow me? I'm totally into that whole relaxed. It's not my problem anymore kind of mood. So it's like I have never done that. Let me ask you this. His next question is rather prudent. I guess if you look back on things, and that because I certainly have a few of my own that I could probably say to myself, if you had advice to give. If you were able to go back in time as the person you are now and whisper in your younger self's ear, what advice would you give your younger self regarding making? Not don't go out with Billy or don't go out with Susie. I'm talking about regarding making. We don't want to go there. We don't want to go there.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Don't hide them under the bed. Don't hide them under the bed. That would be the advice to give my younger self.
Mom's going to catch you to do that. No, I'm talking about because oh boy, I would be there for a long time whispering in that young lad's ear. But honestly, regarding your making, I mean, would there be anything that you would suggest to yourself? Start earlier, start later. I mean, that's simple stuff. I'm not looking for.
Would you maybe have started a different kind of craft as well as the one that you're kind of known for? Like we know Ruby likes her turning, Mark likes his CNC. Is there something you would have added to it, maybe, or started something else as well?
Well, I wouldn't have advised myself to start with CNC because they didn't have those back then. What I would suggest to the person is buy all your toys, all the equipment that you want before you retire while you can still afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't buy cheap little stuff.
By quality.
Buy quality, something that's going to last. And if you do sell it to upgrade, you're still going to get a reasonable dollar back on it. And the other thing is, like, one thing I did, was my vacations were never spent sitting on a beach. My vacations were I went somewhere and took classes in learning how to do things. And if I found somebody who was, for example, in the turning, making something I didn't know how to do that I really wanted to know, like when I wanted to learn how to make the cowboy hats, I tracked Johannes Mikkelsen down and I drove to his place in New Hampshire and spent a week there learning how to make them. And then when I wanted to learn how to do the Chinese balls, I found a guy in France and flew to France and spent I spent many weeks with him learning how to do stuff like that.
You must have really wanted to learn how to make that bowl, man. I'm telling you.
I would have went to China
to make that bowl. I got to fly to France. Okay, well, you must really want to make that damn bowl. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, a couple of things. Number one would be to slow down. It's not a race.
Yeah.
And number two would be learn to weld, because I've really limited myself in what I can and can't do. I've got more ideas up here than a tail feather on a turkey farm. Some of them I can accomplish and will. Some of them I don't have the skills or knowledge to do them, so I have to rely on other people to help me out in things that I don't know how to do. And I think most of that could have been solved if I would have learned how to weld. And now I just don't have a place to do it. Otherwise I would.
Well, I learned how to weld, but then I married one, so that took care of that issue.
Well, I've tried, but she is not a welder. So
it's like flash dance.
Well, I did marry I married an aircraft mechanic, so she understands the value of tools. I don't have to sneak them into the house. I have to keep them hidden so I can keep them. Because if not, she'll have them. So.
I just put a sign up that this is a no entry zone.
That doesn't work.
You can't take my tools and play with them.
That doesn't work in this house.
How many of your $100 tools have you actually got on there with a little fake price tag that says $5 written on it?
Well, I can't get away with that either.
Oh, here we go. Is Wayne finally able to join us?
It looks like it.
He's giving it a shot.
There's a picture. I've got a picture on my end, but there's no picture on the main screen yet.
No,
He's kind of frozen up.
To your point about being able to slow down in retirement, Chris, that works fine if you don't have 5 kids and 6 grandkids. I don't sell my items either. They keep me plenty busy.
You know what? I have one. Mark, I've been blessed with one son. And if my son was still here and if he wanted to get out in the shop, I would be out there every day with him because I enjoy spending time with my son in my shop. I really, really do. And he enjoys being out there as well. But he's now living, he went off to college. He's living in Florida and I'm in Connecticut. So it's kind of for us to get together. But man, I'm telling you, if I ever get a chance to get in the shop with him again, I'll be all about it. So I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But Mark, that's just not my situation. That's all.
Well,
have we got you there, Wayne?
No, I don't think we do.
No. No.
Just about, I think.
I can see him.
There you go. There you go.
He's muted.
Nope.
There's a little bit of a delay.
I can tell you that if I was to go back and whisper in the young man's ear that was me back in the day, I would whisper one thing, and it would be spend more time with mathematics. Because I did not learn math in public school. And I barely skated by in college. And I really wish I had spent more time understanding mathematics because I do struggle with it. I mean, and having a shop and knowing that you need to cut precise measurements, I mean, mathematics becomes extremely important. And so it takes me a little longer than it does most people in order for me to get things to fit right. But I get there. My point would be, it's a frustration that I wish I didn't have. That's all.
Mine would be
go on, mate.
Mine would be more of a mindset thing. Like when you go to do something for the first time, it's intimidating because you don't know, and that's normal. So my advice to me would be like, it's okay. It's not that intimidating. Once you do it, it's like everything you ever do. After you do it the first time, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. But it'll hold you back if you let that stop you.
Yeah, one of the things I think a lot of people should take from Jake as well is don't be scared to fail.
Right.
Oh,
I fail a lot.
He's failed a lot. He's failed a lot.
You will fail. It's normal.
Well, just ask his mother.
Yeah.
Good day.
And another thing, there's another thing as well, and I think Dale will probably agree with me on this one, unless he doesn't. It's basically there's no stupid questions unless you ask a stupid question. But yeah, there's no stupid questions. If you don't know the answer to something, then ask somebody.
Yep.
Yeah, don't be scared to ask.
No, I agree with you, James. There's no such thing as stupid questions. There is such a thing as stupid people, and the stupid people ask the same stupid question twice.
Yeah,
it's like
pressure pot vacuum chamber.
It's like, come on.
We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about it. All right. Okay. We're gonna get through these questions and let Jamie and everybody else have their go with you guys. But for now, we're just handing on to Andy Pugh. And Andy, once again, my man Andy Pugh came through and asked us all these questions today. So Andy, thank you so much for your input into the show. We really do appreciate it. We'll be able to start with you. Do you plan your future projects, or do you just kind of play it as you find it? And I'm guessing that's more of a project you do for yourself question. But because obviously the ones that you're paid for are planned for you. But so do you plan future projects, or you just kind of as they come along you do them?
For me, it would be a mixture of both. Like today, I started out with a large piece on the lathe, intending to make a large bowl, and I ended up with a much smaller bowl of a totally different shape because the wood inside had some faults that if I had to work around. And, when I first started rounding the back end off, there was like a shake crack through the wood, and a very large part of it just sort of flew off, which is why you wear face shields. And so that determined that it was not going to be what it started out to be. Sometimes somebody will come over, like, for example, one of my neighbors came over and he said, "Hey, do you know how to make a sword?" I said no, but we could make one, and we did proceed to make one. Made one modeled after the old Scottish swords, and also made a short one. And part of it was turned, part of it we did on the table saw. In fact, I still have it here.
Awesome. Let me see. Oh, I want to see this. Here comes Excalibur. Excalibur is coming to life.
There you go.
Claymore, I would imagine.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. Yes, sir. That's Excalibur.
Very nice.
Right there. Oh, very nice.
Serious.
Very nice.
For those people listening on SoundCloud or some other fruit-based podcast player, come over to YouTube and click that subscribe button and come back and listen to this episode and see an awesome sword.
It looks like Excalibur that you would see in a King Arthur movie. That's an awesome sword. Man, Ruby, that's an amazing job. That's the first one you ever made?
Yeah. Well, we went ahead and we made about a half dozen more after that, and then some local people that do reenactments were looking for some, and we kind of donated to their cause. And
awesome. Good for you.
Nice.
But it was, like I said, we can certainly figure out how to do this. And like when we did the little channel down here, I just remember seeing somewhere where someone had taken their table saw and lowered it so the blade barely exposed, and when you ran it over, you could create this channel.
Yep.
So that was how that was created. And then to get these sides here on an angle, we made an angle jig, so to speak, on the table saw, so we cut this on the angle. And then, of course, the bottom part, I mean, that was just plain turning.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, seriously, I know that you folks that are listening on SoundCloud and other like Jimmy said, fruit-based podcasts, you can't see what she's showing us, but you really should come back and look at that because that sword is incredible. Mark, what about you?
Yeah,
do you plan your future projects, or do you just kind of take them as they come, and how you feel?
Well, as I said, with 5 kids, 6 grandkids, and a wife, I mean, it's basically planned for me. It's Mark, Dad, or Grandpa, I need this.
Well, it
And
sounds like you didn't do any planning.
Well,
and Wayne arrives.
to be fair, 2 of my kids are mine, and they were planned, and the other 3 are steps. But we're one big happy family here, and they'll keep you busy, and that's what I mean. I did have to learn how to say no, because if I didn't,
There we go.
I'd just have to take a bedroll with me and have meals delivered because I'd be in the shop 24/7.
I hear you.
But there is a certain amount of planning that has to go in everything I make, obviously. But because you don't want to get in the middle of an expensive piece of material and destroy the thing, which is always an option.
Which happens more often than we would rather not.
Yeah. I don't know if Wayne caught that last question, Chris. I don't know if you want to ask it to him now.
Well, I think we need to bring Wayne into the conversation and welcome. Hi, Wayne. How are you? It's glad to see you could finally make it.
Good evening, Chris, and everybody. I finally got here. I was about to start. I was about to start carving on stone and throwing them into the chat, but it would work faster than my internet.
Well, let me run through the questions that we've asked before. Quickly, if you can keep your answers with a certain amount of brevity, that would be appreciative, and then we'll bring you up to 2 right where we are right now. Hey, did the making start before or after you retired, Mark? Wayne?
I started making before, long before.
Okay. Has it changed since that you are no longer employed?
Oh, definitely. It's totally changed since I've retired.
What if you could reach back and whisper in the ear of the young Wayne, what advice would you give that young Wayne that you wish that you had done, that you wish you had now?
Start about 12 years earlier than I did. I started making, when was it? 1986. I started making properly as a wood turner, 1986. If I could go back to 12 years earlier than that and started making when I was 20-year-old as a wood turner, that would have been very, very preferential.
Life-changing. All right. And this brings you right up to where we are right now. Do you plan your projects currently, or you just kind of play it as you see it? Play where it comes.
Right. I plan commissions. I don't plan anything else. Is people who know me that have earwormed for me when I do lives. If I'm doing a lunchtime live, I'll go in the workshop at 12 o'clock. I'll pick a lump of wood out, stick it on the lathe, and I'll turn something at 1 o'clock. It doesn't tend to get planned.
It usually gets planned during the live chat. What Wayne's saying to turn in. The live chat will often decide what he's turning for him.
It kind of goes.
Okay, well, Jamie, Jake, Dale, if you would keep an eye on the chat for me, please. I'm going to let I'm going to let the people know that they're obviously with us today live.
A lot of the time, Jamie's mother decides what I tend to turn.
Okay, and Jamie pays for it.
Thanks for ruining my train of thought there, Wayne. If you don't mind, shut up. Wayne, I'm glad you're here, but please do me a favor. Shut up now, okay? There are people out in there. There are people out in the chat. I have one more question, and then we're going to be feeding off your questions. So please, if you have questions for any of these 3 lovely people, please ask them now, and then either Jake or Jamie or Dale will keep track of them, and we will ask them as they come forward. Wayne, you're a handful, bud. All right, Ruby, once again, we'll start with you because you are the loveliest one amongst us, obviously.
That's because I'm the thorn amongst all the roses.
Well, no. You're a rose amongst the thorns right now. I don't mind telling you, my dear. Do you, Ruby? Do you stick to one form of making, or are there others that you do, or more importantly, are there others that you'd like to do? I mean, obviously you do turning, but you just showed us an amazing sword that you also make. So obviously you do others. But is there something you haven't tried yet that you really want to?
Oh, well, I also do painting and carving.
Get ambitious on
I guess the area that I'm delving more and more into is a lot of the ornamental turning. I have 2 homemade rose engines downstairs.
Two rose engines.
Yeah, one is literally made from nuts and bolts. And I just really wish that when I was at university, I could have taken engineering. In fact, I applied for it, but they wouldn't let women into the program at that time period. And I just find that whole concept, which is more like using a metal lathe, to be intriguing, and how to create some of the different shapes, particularly the spiraling and stuff like that.
Like some of the stuff that Jeff Hornung's doing at the moment.
Actually, his is pretty straightforward. If I'm thinking about the plates in the blue and the red that he's been showing, yeah, those you can actually set up and do on a regular lathe. I'm talking about things that are a little more intricate than what Jeff's doing, but his approach, he's using color, and he's using simple forms, but putting them together in such a way that they're just beautiful. I mean, they really are. He's done an excellent job. Have you seen some of the work by John Sauer or Josh Sarazan?
I've got to say I haven't. Didn't Captain Eddie build a rose machine as well?
I believe he did.
He did. He
if
did
you
indeed.
can Google some of the work by Jean-Claude Charpignon that he's done, which is like they used to do in the 1700s.
Wow.
And it's, I mean, that's, to put it mildly, it's all museum quality. And I was very pleased to learn from him.
There's a question out in the chat from Super Incognito for Jake. So let's get that. So, a question for Jake: when are you going to start turning pens?
When I have time. That's one of those things. Like this, the question that we were on was, do you do it? How do you plan your next projects? Mine are out of necessity. So mine are, I figure out problems and I fix them, just like what I've been doing on Instagram. And in the last couple of videos is prototyping pen blanks that'll maximize the size of your pressure pot. So now I spent the last 2 days making these things so I could put the molds back together easily. The turning pens would be when I have time to do it, but there's so much other stuff, and the necessity things always come first.
Okay. There's another. Go on, Chris. Sorry, mate.
No, it's all right. Go ahead. You got a question? Go for it.
Yeah, there's another question for Ruby. What sort of painting do you do, and how long have you been doing it?
I think I've painted since I was big enough to hold on to a crayon and put marks on furniture and walls.
There you go.
Natural
there you go.
Just jump in there and say that the Terry who asked that question is quite a talented artist himself.
Yeah, he does.
Some of the paintings that he does, they are very, very nice.
Yeah,
Well, ladies and
Terry
gentlemen,
does it.
I'll just grab 2 pieces I have right here, okay?
No, Ruby, don't, because we're on a podcast and nobody can see them right now and appreciate them. When we have you on, and I want to say this clearly, I want Ruby back on as a spotlight. Then you can show us all the stuff that you do. I don't want you to, don't overexpose yourself now, my dear. We're here for a reason today. And you people in the chat, just quit being so Ruby greedy, okay? Just stop it.
Well,
Just
actually, if they go to my website, some of them are on there already.
What's your website? Tell them.
RubyCler.com.
RubyCler, CLER.com.
Right. But mostly I do oils and acrylics. I do some watercolor. I've done some pencil crayon, charcoal. I tend to like high realism. Abstract art doesn't do a lot for me.
Okay.
And I tend to like to do wildlife in particular.
Awesome. Well, let me go back to the question prior to, because we've yet to ask Mark and Wayne this question. And I guess Mark, we'll start with you. Do you stick to one form of making? I know you're into CNCs, or do others, or do you do others, or do you want to kind of dip your toe into the waters of something else along the lines? I mean, what are your ambitions, my dear sir?
Well, I'm known for CNC, but I go back to, hand tools and what have you, CNC being just one tool in the arsenal. I'm traditionally furniture and cabinetry, but what I want to do after learning the CNC and getting a little bit more confident and getting better with it is I want to start getting into some different materials that I've not used before. I would especially love to get further into inlays and start specializing in that, especially with an eye towards musical instruments and doing mother of pearl inlays and things of that nature.
I know a guy who could help you.
I know a couple of guys. Thankfully, one's in Australia where, he and I will not be any kind of competition, and the other one is in New Zealand. But yes.
Well, the one I know is in Great Britain, and he's a very young lad known as Sean Evanley.
Okay. Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. I'd like to get further into that and just get into, I don't know, I guess you would consider them more exotic materials. But deep at heart, I'm a wood nerd, so there's always going to be some of that.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. What about all these metalworker people? Anyway,
I'm a serious wood nerd. I'm still toting around pieces of oak I got when we were stationed in Germany.
I love you. I do love you. Wayne, what about you, buddy? I mean, did you stick to one form of? I mean, because everybody knows you do as a turner. Is that pretty much what you do, or do you just kind of play it as it goes, or is there something you like to eventually get yourself into besides just turning?
Right, I started off turning, and then I got a bit tired of turning, and I started doing a fair amount of flat work, doing a bit of furniture stuff. Went back to turning. That's still my passion. I have gotten into scroll saw a little bit, not a hell of a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, you have.
Stop it.
Stop it, Jamie. Just stop it now.
Metalwork is probably my nemesis. I'd love to do more metalwork, but when I try, I am better at, to tell you the truth, I'm better off with CA glue, putting two pieces of metal together than what I am welding.
You know what? Being in the same situation as you lovely folks are, I actually have a want to learn so much metal work. Only enough to stick two pieces of metal together, and I'm talking simple angle iron, because I do a lot of stuff outdoors, and I want to know how to make metal stands to put things on. I want to know how to make metal fixtures to go along. Like if I want to, for instance, there's a barbecue that I'm dying to make, and you'll have to Google this if nobody else is out there, because it's not well known. There's a barbecue out there called the Santa Maria style barbecue, and I want to make one of those so badly, but I know diddly about how to stick two pieces of metal together. So, man, that would be my only thing that I'd like to have a foray into. Other than that, I've always said I'd like to make a boat. I'd like to make a boat someday and learn the idea of fiberglassing and things of that nature. But besides that,
if you do happen to listen to Wayne and use Super Glue, you can get 15% off at Starbond.
Jamie, are you always peddling something?
Yes.
Can I just say I'm the only wood turner in Great Britain that doesn't have Starbond as a sponsor?
Speaking of people we'd like to have back on, Sean, we'd like to have you back on too, my friend. He's on the chat. Sean,
it's
great to see you. We want to talk to you because it was a long time ago when you were just a wee lad who we thought spoke, and you've come a long way, my friend.
I need to be able to ask him boxes or briefs again without it being awkward.
I see Sean has said that he wishes he had my CNC knowledge. Sean, you do. You just don't know it yet. If you can draw a line, you got it.
There you go, buddy.
If I can learn this stuff, anybody can. I'm telling you.
That's kind of what I say when I learn something. It's like, if I know this, I know it's not hard. Okay, so don't worry about it. Well, that's it for our questions. Do we have any more from the chat?
There's one from Chris of the Dragons. He's got a question for Wayne. He wants to know, Wayne, do you have a scroll saw?
Yes, I do. I do have a scroll saw, and I have used it quite a lot, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, there we go. So,
at least you didn't ask me that.
Wayne's actually got, Chris has actually got the same amount as me. He's got 2.
Yeah,
he started a collection of them now. He likes it that much.
Well, actually, since I've got the new one, I'm not ever going to look at that old one again. I may actually give that to my son and say, "Here, you have a miserable life."
What kind of scroll saw did you end up getting?
I didn't go out and purchase this on my own, Ruby. This was gifted to me. It was a DeWalt 788. Isn't that right, Jimmy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was given that by the fine community that surrounds us today.
Yeah, between Dale and myself, we headed up a little help for Chris.
Okay. Well, I was at a painting conference in Las Vegas once, and the woman I had gone specifically to take a class with had to cancel at the last minute because her son had been killed in a car accident.
No.
Yeah, so the organizer said, instead of your money back, how would you like to take a half-day scroll saw class? I said, sure, why not? The woman from the west coast of the States taught the class. It was really good. I mean, we learned quite a bit. And at the end of the day, the guy in charge of all the scroll saws said, if any of you would like to purchase these because they're all used, we'll sell them to you for $600. These were all top-of-the-line Hegners, 18-inch.
Holy crow!
Wow, that's a big deal.
For $600, that's a deal.
I said to him, yeah, I'd like one, but there's no way I can carry this back on an airplane. And he asked me where I lived, and I told him. He said, I'll tell you what, if you buy it, I'll have it delivered. Well, the one that was delivered was brand spanking new because it was still in the box.
Oh, you're kidding.
Nice.
Nice one.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's how I ended up scroll sawing. And I don't know if you saw recently where I made that little kinetic art using the scroll saw.
I was just about to ask that, Ruby, if you actually did that on the scroll saw.
Yeah, and behind it are 2 pulleys, and I turned the pulleys, and I found by varying the diameters of the pulleys, I could change the speed that it turns at. And that's another area I'd like to delve into more. Would be like That kinetic.
I've got to say it. Ruby is far too clever to be on this program.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that.
I'll agree with that.
I have an addiction. I admit it, and it's learning.
So speaking of addictions, there's a question there for Dale. How many scroll saws do you have?
6.
6.
I have 6. 6. I have one from the 1940s, which you have to use your feet to pedal, right up to bang up to date 30-inch ET762. Yeah, so I've got 6, and everything in between.
Speaking of retired, that thing should have retired quite some time ago, Dale. I mean, you don't still use it, do you?
Well, it's like a charm, though.
You don't still use that, do you?
I have a video that I've recorded of me cutting some very simple stuff out of it. You know, I mean, it's quite tiring. What I need is kind of some sort of syndrome for my leg, kind of thing that keeps my leg moving all the time, kind of thing, and just keep scrolling.
That poor saw
I'll get you to the 10,000 steps.
If you get one for each foot, you could do 2 patterns.
No, you fall over.
No, that saw has done its work. Let it retire in passion. Put it on display somewhere. You know, it's like,
I keep telling people that about me, but
well, to be fair, there's something to be said for conservation of the tool. You know, it's not sitting in a field rusting.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. But conservation means don't use it anymore and make it pristine and pretty.
No, some things you have to keep them running to
shut up.
stay
Just
lubricated.
Exactly.
They don't freeze up and rust up.
Exactly right.
You know, things don't break down when you're using them. They break down when they sit.
It's like the broom kind of thing. This is the same broom my grandfather had. It's had 4 new heads and 6 new handles, but this is my grandfather's broom.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's got to be like.
It's fine. I have some of my grandfather's tools. My grandfather was a tool maker. He actually worked for a tool and die company, and he made a lot of his own tools. And I happen to have his collection. So, and to be honest with you, to be very honest with you, I don't use them. I cherish them.
Yeah.
I don't. They don't get use anymore. But I mean, they are there to be used if I ever need to. So it's just kind of one of those things that you know, it's family hand down. You don't want to let it go, kind of thing. So it's like, do I need them? No. But am I going to let them go? No.
Tell me about that. Yeah. I'm surrounded by 23 spinning wheels.
There you
go. Hey, and I only have 6 lathes.
You've got 6.
You're just greedy.
6. You've got 6 lathes.
That's what we're saying here. You're
6 lathes in a couple of Rose engines.
All right, Jake.
And a partridge in the pear tree.
No, Jamie, but I'm working on that.
Jake,
I get squirrel instead.
Our next show is Tool Addiction, and we're going to have the same guests on with us. Okay.
Acquisition syndrome. Yeah.
Don't mind.
You know, before this COVID crap hit, I was on my way to France, and I made it as far as London, England, before they turned me back. But I was on my way there to take a class for a week, learning how to make a pole lathe and the tools, the old-fashioned tools to use with it.
Oh, I remember that. What? There used to be Ruby. I take it. Are you in the States or are you in Canada?
I'm in Canada.
What was the name of the gentleman who? God, I'm gonna get crucified in the woodworking world for not remembering this man's name. I think his name was.
It's not the woodpecker. Is that the guy?
No. It was Roy. I want to say it was he.
Underhill. Roy Underhill.
Roy Underhill. He had one of those that he actually made, didn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Matt Cremona or not, but he attended a chair building school a few years back and posted videos on his YouTube channel about that, where they made spring lathes.
Yeah.
And then used those to turn the spindles to build those chairs.
Wow.
A lot of time these days, rather than using the pole and a piece of string, they'll use a bungee.
Right.
But that's old school. But that's old school.
No, that's fairly new school.
Well, no, I mean the bungee cord is, but Wayne, I'm talking about the concept. And the what?
The pool lathe is exceptionally old school.
That's
In
old
fact,
school.
I actually taught the first lesson on how to do pool lathe.
Oh man, no kidding.
Oh, so I just have to go and see you then.
Wow.
Sorry, Ruby.
So I just have to go and visit you then to learn how to make
Oh, definitely, no problem.
You can get a free pizza if you go and see Wayne as well.
Ooh.
An English pizza. I don't know, Ruby. I don't know if I'd be that excited. But you know.
Hey, Chris, I'm sorry, sunshine.
This is proper pizza.
This is proper pizza. Wood burning oven. Less than a minute to cook the pizza.
Not the takeaway rubbish.
Right. I didn't mean to lump you into one category, Wayne. So you now therefore have my entire respect. Okay.
That's my other. That's one of my other passions, by the way, cooking.
All right. Well, my portion of this podcast is over with. I'm going to give it to Jamie, Jake, and Dale to finish up the rest of this because I've asked the questions. I've talked enough. Go, guys. Pick it up, please.
Oh. Well, 45 minutes, Chris. This must be some kind of record. Right, so there's another question for Ruby out in the chat. It says, Ruby, is a spiral vase or vase stained, or is that the wood color?
I presume you can see some behind me or whatever, and I have one that's stained and I have one that's natural wood color.
We can put you on full screen like that. There you go.
Yeah,
we can hang some pictures in the community page, Ruby. So hold them up, and for those folks in SoundCloud, we can direct them to the pictures in the community page.
Okay, so you want me to take pictures and send them to
just
you?
one. Yeah. So we can say if you send pictures, we put them in the community page for all those folks out.
Right here beside me. I'll just grab them.
Yeah. Oh, he's talking about the vase on the website. Oh, he or she. Sorry, I'm not sure of the gender.
Okay. This one is natural. It's acacia, and that's silver on the top and collar.
Nice.
This might be the one he's referring to. It's actually maple, and it was painted.
Looks
very
beautiful.
nice. Very nice.
So for folks on SoundCloud, what we're looking at is a beautiful vase, carved and spiraled. We'll post some pictures inside the community page on YouTube and in our podcast group on Facebook. So go check them out.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
If you spend any time with Stuart Mortimer, you can't help but learn how to do spirals. The man is just he's like a machine.
The wealth of information that we have right here with us today could inspire this podcast to go on for another 3 or 4 hours, but unfortunately we can't do that. But we can have each and every one of you back again alone and talk to you about your own personal experiences and delve a little bit more into what you do, because by far you are very interesting people, and we want to know more about you. But in the meantime, Jamie's got a fat lady that he needs to queue up, because if Mark and Ruby and Wayne, if you'll bear with us, we have to do some shout outs for the community, and then we'll wrap this whole thing up. But Jamie has to sing. Well, hopefully not this. Hopefully not.
Well, there's actually a quick video that needs to play before that video gets played, so I'll quickly play that video now.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you the following public service announcement. You are watching this of your own free will. Thank you. Now back to your regularly scheduled broadcast.
Now it's time for
Jamie's page.
That's so much better. That's so much
Oh,
better.
can we have a round of applause for the Mixed International Choir? We don't have to listen to Jamie sing.
It's so good you made you want to do.
How many voices are in that?
I don't care, but they're
so
better
far
than
there's,
Jamie. So
so far there's
doesn't
three.
matter.
There's three at the moment, but I've you can upload as many as you like, as far as I know. I don't know.
Oh, they're in tune. That's all I care about.
Yeah. So the only piece of news I've really got at the moment is I don't really want to say too much. But can you everyone give out their thoughts to Mr. Dave Gatton? He's a little bit under the weather. That's all I really want to say at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just send your prayers, send your love if prayer is that, if you're into that kind of thing. Just be thinking about him. Like I say, he's a bit under the weather. Apart from that, I've got a premiere going out at 11 o'clock UK time, 6 p.m. Eastern, as always. Got to self-promote, as you do, you know what I'm saying? My shout-out for today is you could say it's a little bit selfish, unless there's ladies out there with beards. Unlikely, but possible. So my shout out this time is not on the making side of things, but it goes to a channel called Dan C. Bearded. It's basically a channel for people with beards. And he's actually a history teacher. And he actually gives you a lot of advice and tells you the history of all different kinds of beard products. And surprisingly, people have been using products in their beards for years. I'm talking Stone Ages. So a long time. Yeah. So
product seems kind.
It gives a lot of people a lot of hints and tips on, let's say, for example, if you're not getting hair growth on one side and you are more the other, then he tells you how to sort that out, etc., etc. And he's a hell of a nice guy as well. He does a lot of giveaways. Yeah, he does a hell of a lot of giveaways on his channel as well. So yeah, Dan C. Bearded is my shout out.
Would he help you if you don't have any growing?
Probably. He's probably got some sort of recipe for it.
He's got seeds. Ruby, you can now be the bearded lady if you'd like. Jake, what about you? You got a shout out?
I saw her in the chat earlier. It's Connie, and she's from Skull Inspired on Instagram, and she's got a pretty big TikTok also. But she makes anything you can imagine out of skulls, resin and skulls and dice, and puts them all together, keychains, and her work is fantastic, and she's pretty cool also. So that's my shout out, Connie from Skull Inspired.
Awesome.
Nice.
Dale?
Nice.
So there's a video by a chap called Sebi Terreso. What Sebi did is he took an induction motor out of a washing machine, and to Mark's point earlier, he welded up a frame for this and made his own adjustable belt sander. I mean, basically from scrap. Very capable, self-adjusts. And chaps from Italy, go and check out his channel. It's good stuff. I mean, he's been very kind in that he doesn't speak in Italian over the top of it, so the rest of us who don't speak any Italian can get there. But go check him out. It's a really, really impressive belt built from some old angle iron, an induction motor, and a bit of a belt, and it's really, really cool. Go check him out.
What's his name again?
Sebi Terreso. I think the link's in the description, Ruby.
Yeah, all the links will be in the description afterwards.
And my shout out this week is going to go to Jake over there. And before he gets a big head about the whole thing, because we know Jake and he doesn't need that. I'm only giving you this shout out, my friend, because I've done what you did, and I've come to call my project that I did the most exhausting and expensive light bulb ever. Yes, there's a story behind that. Yes, I will tell it in the future, but not now. However, Jake did a video, and actually it's a very helpful video. Jake, you did a good job at this, about running an airline from one point to another in his shops, and he showed how to get it done. It's good info if you want an air compressor out of your shop for I don't care, noise considerations or whatever the case may be. And trust me, compressors can get really loud, and so having them in a different location and running air into your shop, there is a major plus to that. So I think you titled that video like burying compressed air line underground or something like that. Yeah. So if you get a chance, and if that ever happens to be a predicament you find yourself in, go check out Jake, because he did that, and I'll tell you about the most expensive light bulb ever later. Should it come up, but I'm not going to offer that up for free. I will have to be persuaded. Anyway, so Jake Thompson, the man, the myth, the legend amongst his own head, is my shout out this week. So there you go. Well done, Jake.
There we go. So I guess that's it for all the shout outs. Unless there's anything else we need to cover.
I really think you should give another shout out to Wayne for doing the weekly shows that he does and encourages.
That's a good call. Wayne does put a lot of effort in. He's always there to help out. He's been on every virtual craft festival so far, and for good reason as well. And speaking of that, I want to good segue actually. Well done, Jamie.
Good job.
The Virtual Craft Festival is coming up on May 29th, so set in your calendars. It's a free event with 16 hours all through the day, starting at 10 a.m. in the UK and running all day, and it ends with Carl Jacobson in the end and 10 a.m. on my channel. So yeah, but going back to Wayne, Wayne's been on every single Virtual Craft Festival twice on one day on one of them.
Yeah, as a stand-in, because
someone had some issues. But yeah, he's a good cat, so to speak. So he's always brings something new to the table. Sometimes he turns up sober.
Not often.
When you're good peoples, Wayne, and you know what? I want to sincerely thank Mark for taking the time out of his day, and Ruby for taking the time out of yours, and Wayne, you as well, my friend, for coming on with us today, because been a great and actually very interesting show, and we look forward to having you back again, if not individually, then at least together one more time, because I definitely am intrigued with the experiences you have had, and I would like to learn more about each and every one of you. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Well, since we've got a couple of minutes left, might as well let Marcus does a podcast with Eloy Escajado. So I don't know if you want to quickly plug that, Mark.
Well, yes, it's my partner Eloy Escajado and we do a podcast called the Trampled Underfoot Podcast. It's two kids from different ends of the continent, from different decades, talking about life, the universe, and everything. We touch on everything from music and pop culture to history and everything else. We just do it all. So it's the Trampled Underfoot Podcast. We record Tuesday evenings at 6:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, look for Trampled Underfoot Podcast.
Awesome.
There we go. So there you go, guys. Until next week, when we should be officially giving the final lineup to the podcast, or letting you know what's going on. It's I guess we'll see you next week. So I guess it's goodbye from me, and good night from everybody else. So can I say goodbye say good night, everybody.
Good night.
And
good night, everybody.
Thank you very much for setting this up, JP, and for all your questions, Chris and Dale.
No worries, everybody.
Love having you all on. You guys have a great week, all right? We'll talk to you later.
Awesome.
Bye.
Take it easy, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.